An Italian astrophysicist who spent his career searching for signals from space reviewed the 1984 Hessdalen radio recordings and found a structured signal moving at 30,000 kilometers per hour, with a second coherent signal embedded inside it that no one has ever been able to explain. Welcome to Untold Lores, the automated station and the signal, part 3 of 4. In 1998, 14 years after the original field campaign, the Hessdalen Automatic Measurement Station was established in the valley. It was designed to observe the phenomena continuously without requiring a human team to be present. The station included optical cameras, radar, a magnetometer, a radio frequency spectrum analyzer, and a laser radar system. It transmitted data in real time to researchers at Hessdalen University College. The station has operated largely continuously since 1998 and remains active today. The data it has produced over more than 2 decades of continuous monitoring represents one of the most extensive long-term instrument datasets ever compiled on any unidentified aerial phenomenon anywhere in the world. What that data has confirmed is both significant and deeply problematic for conventional science. The Hessdalen lights are still occurring. They occur on average 15 to 20 times per year in the current decade, down from the peak frequency of the early 1980s but consistent and verifiable. Each occurrence is captured by the automated instruments. Each occurrence produces measurable data, and each occurrence remains unexplained by any accepted natural or man-made mechanism. In 2001, Italian researchers from the UNTOLD project, a collaborative effort between Italian and Norwegian scientists, conducted field measurements in Hessdalen using a new instrument suite. During one observation session, they recorded a luminous object that emitted radiation in the visible spectrum and simultaneously in the radar frequency range. The object had a radar cross-section consistent with a metallic structure several meters across, but no metallic structure was visible. What was visible was light that had a radar cross-section. This was, in the language of physics, contradictory. Light does not have a radar cross-section. Electromagnetic radiation in the visible spectrum does not reflect radar. What the instruments had recorded was not possible under standard electromagnetic theory. The UNTOLD team published their findings. The findings were peer-reviewed, they were not explained. In 2007, Stelio Montebagnoli of the Italian National Institute for Astrophysics became involved in the Hessdalen research. He was not a UFO researcher. He was an astrophysicist who had spent years working on the SETI program, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, monitoring radio signals from space for signs of structured information. Montebagnoli reviewed the archived radio frequency data from the 1984 field campaign. He confirmed what the communications engineers had identified: the signals had a mathematical structure. But Montebagnoli went further. He analyzed the signal against known natural radio emission profiles and known man-made radio frequency patterns. The signal did not match natural emissions. It did not match man-made interference. It matched nothing in his reference database. Then came the finding that recontextualizes everything that had happened in Hessdalen since 1981. Montebagnoli determined that the radio signal recorded in 1984 bore structural characteristics consistent with a Doppler frequency shift. A Doppler shift occurs when a signal source is moving relative to the receiver. The frequency compression or expansion of the signal encodes information about the direction and velocity of the source. When Montebagnoli calculated the velocity implied by the Doppler structure of the Hessdalen signal, the figure he arrived at was not the velocity of a natural drifting plasma, not the velocity of a weather phenomenon, not the velocity of any known atmospheric effect. The implied velocity matched the radar-confirmed speed from the February 12, 1984 field log, the same speed. The signal and the radar data, recorded by 2 entirely different instruments operated by different team members on different nights, were describing the same object moving at the same velocity. The data was internally consistent across instruments and across time, which meant the data was accurate. and the data described something moving at 30,000 kilometers per hour through the Hessdalen Valley, while simultaneously emitting a structured, mathematically regular radio signal. Montebagnoli presented his analysis to colleagues. The response from the wider scientific community was not dismissal, it was silence. No one published a counter-analysis. No one identified an error in his methodology. The paper exists, the data exists, no explanation has been produced. There was one final detail that Montebagnoli noted in his analysis, a detail he described in the paper's conclusion as unexplained and outside the scope of his investigation. The radio signal from 1984 contained what he described as an anomalous substructure, a secondary signal embedded within the primary. The secondary signal was at a frequency ratio to the primary that was not a harmonic multiple, not a reflection artifact, and not consistent with instrument interference. It was a distinct, coherent signal riding inside another signal. Montebagnoli listed it as an unresolved data point. He did not speculate on its origin, he recorded it and moved on. No subsequent researcher has produced an explanation for the secondary signal, and no one, in the 4 decades since it was recorded, has been able to determine why it is there. When a separate research team attempted to reconstruct the secondary signal's frequency pattern using modern analysis tools, the pattern they isolated had a mathematical property that no instrument malfunction, no atmospheric interference, and no known natural process could generate. It was non-random in a way that implied external ordering. That's it for part 3. Follow Untold Lores for part 4. Like and subscribe for daily stories.